What's up, folks? I'm Odd, by the way. It is hot today, and my brain is a little bit fried. But I did get an idea. I thought would be fun to play around with for Pokemon Day. I'm going to be doing, I think, a random Pokemon alteration of some sort based off of a random color palette. So I have the random Pokemon generator, obviously, up here, and as alongside that, we have the Cooler's color palette that we can roll a random. And the basic idea here being that obviously a lot of Pokemon are based primarily off of color schemes. Well, their color schemes correlate to their type or their origin or something like that, right? So taking a Pokemon and effectively changing its palette or even like extending it maybe creates something different. So that's kind of what I wanted to do, kind of a regional variant kind of approach. But the type and the vibe is going to be based off of the color palette, which will probably pretty well define the typing. However, there are some color palettes that I feel like could go a number of ways, so I'm curious to see how that turns out. But let's just get into it before I melt alive. I spend all day in air conditioning and it still doesn't matter. But that's okay. Let's generate Rhyperior. It is classically brown and orange. It's the final step of the Rhydon line. Alright, and what is your color palette going to be? Deep. Ooh. Okay, that is not orange. Coolers, that is not orange. But okay, let me grab some screenshots of these. Alright, so right off the bat, I am seeing a very water type kind of style color palette for this. This is not orange. This is a bright ass red. I'm sorry. This engineering orange. No. This is scarlet. But okay. So engineering orange, rich black, which is again another kind of type of blue green. Baby blue, which makes sense. Air Force blue also makes sense. Columbia blue, sure. So this is going to be our color palette for Rhyperior, and it definitely changes things up. Like I said, I could see water. I guess I could also see dragon. Rhyperior is a dragon. Is it already a dragon? It's not already a dragon type. Rhyperior is a dragon type might be interesting. So I'll have to play around with that. But let's just get our next selection. I'm going to be doing 3 because that is my usual. And let's generate our next Pokemon. A boop. Spinda! I love Spinda. They're so cute. Spinda is one of my favorite little guys. I just love them especially because of the ability for them to have like unique pattern placement that like 2 of the same like color variant or like color distribution of Spinda is about as rare if not rarer than shiny odds. So 2 shiny Spindas is like godly. And probably fake. All right, let's see what the Dizzy Panda gets for us. Boop, boop. There we go. Timberwolf, Gunmetal, Dark Cyan, the dark side of me. Gamboge, I think we've gotten that before, or a variant of it. And Cornell Red. Interesting. This one definitely kind of speaks like, oh my god, what is that? Is it Hydreigon I'm thinking of? That has almost this exact color palette. This one is definitely kind of giving dragon to me, which I hope that isn't just a constant thread this episode. I guess I could also see maybe like a fighting type. And for our final Pokemon and color palette of the day, we are going to get... Boop. Abra! Cute! Okay, little baby. And what is your color palette? The Harvest Gold. It's similar, though. Harvest Gold cream. That looks like some bad cream. That is slightly green. I guess that is kind of how milk can show up sometimes, right? But that is not a warm cream color. That is a gross cream color. Cerulean, Indigo Dye, and Oxford Blue. Okay. Alright. So this is an interesting spread of Pokemon this week. Definitely still in the range of Pokemon that I haven't done before, I want to say, but Some ones that I really like. Rhyperior I'm not usually too keen on. Its design is kind of clunky to me. It doesn't it doesn't look as cool as the line leading up to it in my opinion. But the color palette is interesting. I'm curious to play around with that. This definitely gives me dragon. Spinda. Oh, you know what this color palette also reminds me of is Howlucha. That's probably why I said fighting type. Definitely a color palette. It also has some like primary colors, so I could see like off primary colors, but still semi primary colors, primary adjacent colors. But Spinda, I could see maybe like something to do with like paint splatter, maybe across it. That could be an interesting way to go about it. And Abra, this is definitely a very beachy, oceany vibe. So maybe something kind of like that. You remember that one episode where there's like an underground city or something that was like flooded and somebody left their Abra in a Pokeball like hundreds of years ago? Maybe something similar to that. Although that episode always made me sad. But maybe it's like a little water spirit guy. I think that would be cute. It could kind of look like the was it the Navi from Avatar? All right. Well, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to try and deliberate on what exactly I want to do with these three and what variants I want to make out of them. So I will pop you guys over to Speed Paint voiceover and show you what I have come up with when we get there. So I'll see you there. First up, we have our Rhyperior. The color palette for this one gave me big dragon vibes. It's very similar to Hydreigon. It is always interesting doing more research on Pokemon, like learning that Violet's dex entry for Rhyperior is almost an insult, pointing out that its brain is smaller than Rhydon's because it's focused so hard on fighting. Strong and stupid, apparently. Also, that in universe, it can occasionally launch Geodude and Roggenrola out of its cannon arms because it usually launches rocks. Like, where is that animation, guys? Come on. I decided to repurpose the big cannon arms in an almost wyvern stance, so this version of Rhyperior is supporting itself on its arms, and I extended the horns on its head. I made the armor much more spiny too. I could see this variant coming from some sort of ancient scaled armor or something instead of the usual protector item. I don't think I noticed that Rhyperior had a tail before, but I replaced the stone end with a bit more of a spiky shape. The general move here was just sharper. It also has decidedly smaller feet because it walks around on its hands so much. I ultimately decided to ditch the original ground type and go fully for Dragon Rock here. It just made sense to me. This variant of Rhyperior is evolved when holding a set of ancient dragon scales. In times long past, a Rhydon would be the choice of mount for some knights, then a companion as it evolved. Being given the dragon scales was a sign of immense trust. The existence of this item lays somewhere between history and myth in most regions. This Pokemon's temperament is extreme and hard to control if you have not fully earned its trust, but it is fiercely loyal if you have. Next is our Spinda. This palette gave me two distinct vibes. Fighting, like Howlucha, and paint, because it was somewhat primary adjacent. Both kind of make sense for Spinda, in my mind. I could see a situation where it comes across as like a piece of abstract art, or a misprinted figurine. I replaced the usual red spot distribution with the teal and gold while keeping the red pants and shirt, almost. I also thought it would make sense to give this variant a long tail. Spinda is already mostly based on a red panda, but it's missing that iconic stripy tail. The reason I say fighting makes sense for Spinda is mainly because of the teeter dance move. It gives me a very drunken master sort of vibe where the unsteadiness becomes unpredictability. I tried to emphasize that in the pose by giving Spinda more of a kung fu sort of pose while still looking off balance. There might be a few too many aspects to this, and I don't think I would choose the palette in another circumstance, but I do think both ideas, if maybe separately, make perfect sense for Spinda. This variant of Spinda has taken to living nearby urban areas and loves to express itself, mostly through use of colorful paints it seems to produce somehow. It often winds up wandering into trouble, usually with Grafii, but it has more than enough capability of defending itself. Its method of fighting is disorienting and unpredictable, yet highly skilled. It's an agreed upon favorite of both fighting and art enthusiasts alike. And finally we have the Abra. This one was a little tricky to figure out. The palette was giving me water vibes, almost akin to Buizel, but keeping the regular look of Abra was definitely kind of contrasting with that idea. It's not a very fluid looking Pokemon. Ultimately, I landed on a concept kind of similar to Buizel, with some little arm floaties replacing the pauldron on the arms, and a life jacket sort of shape on the chest. The biggest change was a shark-like tail on the back and some fins on the legs. It looks like they're a little baby going for a swim. I don't know how viable of a type change this would be, but it is cute. This variant of Aberrant comes from a tribe whose territory sank eons ago, but used their psychic powers to live under the water. Over time, they developed marine-like features and a connection to the water. Even out of water, it floats serenely. In this first form, it isn't as adept at swimming, so it uses inflated sacs on its arms and chest to stay upright. But those are all of my color palette Pokemon. This was an interesting challenge. Even if I were to somehow roll the exact same types for each of these Pokemon, I doubt I would have used these exact colors. I think especially early Pokemon designs had fewer colors than these palettes too, so it was kind of a challenge to figure out how to distribute them in this new form. Let me know what you think. I think my favorites here are definitely Rhyperior and Spinda. Spinda in general needs a lot more love. It's definitely like a top 10 Pokemon for me. Feel free to let me know what other type of art challenges, Pokemon or otherwise, you'd like to see me do in the future, and you can always subscribe to catch those when they go up. At that though, I'll leave this here for now, and I'll see y'all next time.